At the beginning of the movie, we see the process of making chocolates. We see how the mixture is made, and how it's placed into molds to take shape. We also see someone making cupcakes and placing them into a box. Our protagonist, Emma Colvin, grabs the box of cupcakes and heads to work. On her way there, she listens to an audio guide teaching how to speak German to tourists. Upon arriving at her workplace, she greets her co-workers and makes the necessary preparations for the day. She goes to a table and arranges the cupcakes on it, making it presentable. Her co-worker tastes a cupcake and compliments her. They briefly talk about Emma's upcoming trip to Bruges. She checks her phone and remembers that she is supposed to be meeting her boyfriend, Todd. She heads to their meeting place. Upon meeting up with Todd, she shows him a box of mementos that her grandma sent to her. She tells him about the fact that her grandparents met in Bruges, and shows him the letters that they exchanged when they were courting. However, Todd looks disinterested while listening to her story. Todd breaks the news to Emma that he can't come on the trip with her. He tells her that he's moving somewhere else due to a promotion, and abruptly breaks up with her. Hurt, she asks why he didn't even ask if she wanted to move with him. Todd insists that he already knows the answer, stating that Emma is someone that doesn't like to take risks. Emma insists that she can be spontaneous, too, but when Todd relents and asks her to move with him, she doesn't answer. Later that day, we see Emma talking to her coworker about the breakup. She convinces herself that maybe the relationship wasn't meant to be. Her coworker insists that Emma can still go on the trip alone. Since the trip is already paid for, she suggests that Emma go on an unscripted adventure on her own. Back at the office, Emma thinks about what her colleague said, while looking at the pictures of her grandparents. She makes up her mind and goes on the flight alone. The next thing we see is Emma walking on the streets of Bruges. A woman named Marie greets Emma and welcomes her to the establishment, called Chateau Astrid. Emma goes inside and sees a stunning interior. Marie shares that she inherited the place from her family. Emma reveals that she's alone on her trip. Marie isn't bothered by it, and informs Emma that a wedding is happening soon between Prince Frederick and Annabelle. Marie also tells Emma that there are a lot of events happening, and most of them are open to the public. Marie informs Emma that there is going to be a reception later, and invites her to join. She also talks about the chocolate tour happening tomorrow. In the following scenes, we see Emma going around the city, trying out different food and taking pictures of some food stalls. At one point, a man blocks her view, so she politely asks him to move. He looks at her, but doesn't move. She tries saying something in German, but he just looks back with an amused expression. Seeing that he can't understand her, Emma gives up and says goodbye to the stranger. Later that evening, we see Marie talking to her guests, and telling them about the chocolate competition. According to her, all of the chocolatiers in the city are competing in this event, hosted by the prince. We see Emma arrive at the scene. After her speech, Marie takes 2 glasses of champagne from a man named Liam, and then approaches Emma to talk. Marie introduces Emma to some of the people there. Emma compliments the place again, and tells Marie that she is excited about the upcoming chocolate tour. Emma mentions that she doesn't need love, as long as there are chocolates, and the 2 women toast their glasses. The next day, Marie takes her guests on a chocolate tour. They arrive at a store called Chocolatier Simon and Phil's, one of the oldest chocolate shops in Bruges. Marie tells everyone that they are there to experience the process of making chocolates. Upon entering the establishment, Marie introduces everyone to the owner, Luke Simon. Emma is shocked to see that he is the same guy she met yesterday. Luke tells everyone to head to the kitchen, where everything is prepared. Emma asks Luke why he didn't say anything yesterday, even when he was capable of speaking in English. He tells her that he was just having fun at that time. Luke also tells her the proper way to say, "I am a tourist," in German. After Luke heads to the kitchen, Emma asks Marie what the words she said yesterday meant. Marie tells her that the sentence means, "I love you." After that, Emma joins everyone else in the kitchen for the process of making chocolate. Luke explains how to make his recipe, and everyone follows along. However, Emma does something else, and combines the flavors of 2 ganaches. Luke calls her out, but she insists that it's okay, since experimentation can produce a great combination. Luke explains that his recipes have been passed down through generations, and it is not the appropriate time for experimentation. Marie pulls Luke close to her and calms him down, explaining that everything is fine. As the guests leave the shop, Emma hands over some extra chocolates she made to Luke. The assistant takes a bite and tells Luke that it doesn't taste bad. Outside, Marie ends the chocolate tour and tells everyone to enjoy their time in the city. Emma asks Marie why they didn't go to the royal palace. Marie explains that, since a wedding is happening soon, the palace is closed to the public. Emma is disappointed after finding out that all tours to the palace have been cancelled. Back in Luke's kitchen, his assistant Petra delivers some bad news. It's another slow day again, and their shop might soon be forced to shut if nothing changes. Luke reassures her that business will be booming again once they win the competition. He makes her try one of the chocolates he just made, and she tells him it's good. Unfortunately, Luke thinks that good is not enough, and he gets frustrated. In the next scene, we see Emma in her room, reading the newspaper. After that, she heads out to take more pictures, and finds herself going to Luke's shop again. Luke comes out of the kitchen and tells Emma that Petra's husband called. He asks her what she wants to buy. The man points to a cluster of chocolate balls with pink stripes and asks what they are. Luke hands her one and tells her that it's called framboise, a recipe from his grandfather. She then asks if she can get a box of assorted chocolates. Luke hands her a box and tells her that her lover is lucky. She reveals that it's for her mother, so Luke hands her a different box. Petra arrives at the store with her husband. Her husband tells Luke that Petra has been having contractions. Luke insists that Petra should be at home resting. Petra argues that Luke can't run the shop while preparing for the competition at the same time. They start talking about who can replace Petra temporarily. Out of the blue, Emma volunteers to cover Petra's shift. Luke is hesitant at first, so Emma argues that she knows her way around food, since she's a food stylist. Luke asks her if she really wants to spend her vacation working at a chocolate shop. Emma reveals that she wants to get inside the royal palace, and one way to get there is to be invited as a participant in the competition. This could work out for them both, so Luke finally agrees. The next day, Emma and Marie greet each other. Marie congratulates her on becoming a temporary chocolatier. They briefly talk about Luke and his uncompromising attitude. Emma also extends her stay in the inn for a week. In the next scene, we see Luke and Emma in the kitchen. Luke explains how the competition works, the theme and the prizes. Emma finds out that Luke hasn't made much progress in creating new chocolate. His notebook is empty, and most of the pages have been torn off. Luke shows Emma the base ingredient, and shows her his usual chocolate-making process. Moments later, the two taste a new batch. Luke is still not satisfied, so Emma suggests they go out for a while to find some inspiration. Luke and Emma walk around the city and purchase an assortment of chocolates. They sit in a corner, and Luke allows Emma to taste a piece of chocolate. He gives her instructions on how to savor its flavor. He asks her what flavors she tastes. Emma correctly guesses that the piece she is tasting has blackberry essence in it. When Emma sees a couple nearby, she opens up about being envious. Luke finds out about Emma's recent breakup. She also tells him that she's trying to take more risks, instead of playing it safe like she usually does. They continue eating chocolate while laughing. Emma and Luke continue walking around the city while brainstorming ideas for a new chocolate flavor. Luke suggests fruity flavors, while Emma suggests unexpected spicy flavors, like wasabi or chili. In the end, they fail to agree on a new flavor. The next day, Marie and Emma catch up on the events that happened the day before. Emma opens up about Luke being stubborn and not listening to her ideas. Marie suggests that perhaps she can convince him using a demonstration, so Emma asks Marie to let her use the kitchen to make some cupcakes. Later that day, Luke arrives at the inn to taste some of the cupcakes that Emma made. Upon taking a bite, Luke compliments the cupcake, saying that it tastes incredible. He then finds out that what he ate was cherry cola mixed with chocolate. Luke asks if that is Emma's way of telling him to be more adventurous. Emma admits that she just wants him to consider all possible flavor ideas. Luke doesn't argue further and continues enjoying the cupcakes. Later that night, at Luke's shop, a man named Max appears. He asks Luke if he has reconsidered his offer. Luke tells him that his shop is not for sale. Max calls the shop a relic of the past and asks Luke to come to work for him. Luke rejects the offer, asserting Max that his business will recover once he becomes the royal chocolatier. Max is amused by Luke's response and leaves the shop. The next day, Emma shows Luke the mementos given to her by her grandparents. She thinks their love story is the inspiration they need to make the best chocolate. He reads one of the letters aloud. Emma asks him if he doesn't believe that people can live spontaneously. Luke shares that he prefers to take things slowly when it comes to matters of the heart. Emma, on the other hand, believes she is willing to take a leap of faith if the right person comes along. Later that day, Luke shows Emma how he tempers chocolate. He also allows her to try it. Seconds later, Luke holds Emma's arms as he shows her the proper technique to mix the chocolate. At one point, he asks her to taste the chocolate mix, to notice the change in its temperature. Luke reveals that his family passed down the business to him, and he has been running it ever since. He asks Emma about her career and what she wants to do. She reveals that she's always wanted to run a cupcake shop, but is afraid to take the risk. Luke gives her some words of encouragement as he continues putting the mixture into the molds. Moments later, the chocolate forms, and they taste it. Once again, Luke isn't satisfied, and they start over. Later that night, Emma asks Marie for restaurant recommendations. She suggests going with Luke, and insists that Emma shouldn't be eating alone. Emma insists that she's already been with Luke the entire day, so she doesn't want to trouble him further. Outside, we see Emma looking at a map, trying to find her way around the city. She bumps into Max, and he helps her navigate her exact location. She thanks him and they part ways. The next day, Emma reads the letters that her grandpa wrote to her grandma. Marie arrives, and they have a brief conversation. Emma asks if Marie is interested in Liam. Marie insists that Liam is just her friend, and he provides champagne to most establishments in Bruges. Later that day, Emma falls in line at a different chocolate shop. Max sees her and offers to let her inside without waiting in line. She follows him, and later finds out that he is the owner of that store. She notices a unique flavor of chocolate on display, so he gives her one to taste. Max tells her that experimentation can lead to great combinations, something that Emma also believes in. Then he leads her to the production floor to see how his chocolates are made. Upon leaving the store, Max asks Emma if she is just visiting Bruges. She reveals that it started out that way initially, but now she's extended her stay to help Luke. Max reveals that he grew up together with Luke, and they have a very competitive attitude towards each other. He's not worried about losing to Luke in the upcoming competition, though. Emma responds by telling him that he should worry, since they are working on something unique. Max gives her a box of chocolates and asks if they can see each other again sometime. Then they part ways. In the next scene, we are back in Luke's kitchen. Emma becomes frustrated, since she can't properly take the chocolates out of the mold. Luke points out that she didn't temper the mixture properly. He also points out that making chocolates is harder than baking cupcakes. Emma then challenges Luke to make cupcakes, if he thinks that is the case. Next, we see Luke and Emma in the kitchen at the inn. Luke asks how much salt he should put in, and Emma tells him to put a smidge. However, Luke doesn't quite understand what a smidge is, so Emma demonstrates it. After a while, they finish baking, and Emma tastes the cupcakes that Luke made. She pretends to like it at first, but Luke notices her facade. Emma comforts him by mentioning that they have discovered a few potential flavor combinations they can try. Out of the blue, Luke receives a text message informing him that the prince is coming to his shop in a few days. In the afternoon, Marie prepares a table for Emma and Luke so they can unwind. The table is complete with food and champagne. After they pour some drinks, Luke tells her that the atmosphere reminds him of a letter written by Emma's grandfather. He proceeds to recite the letter from memory. After that, Luke brings up that they still don't have a winning flavor, despite being days away from the competition. Emma reassures him that they will eventually figure something out, since they make a great team. Suddenly, Luke comes up with an idea and asks Emma to come with him. He takes her on a romantic boat ride throughout the city. We see the duo enjoy the sights and have a good time. At the end of the activity, Emma states that she thinks it's easy to fall in love with the city, given the atmosphere. Later, while Emma and Luke are walking, Max appears and greets Emma. Luke is surprised that the two know each other. He finds out that the two met before, when Emma was exploring the city. Luke becomes frustrated after learning that Emma visited Max's chocolate shop. After making some passive-aggressive comments, he abruptly leaves, confusing Emma. The next day, Emma tries to bring up why Luke left so suddenly. However, before they can continue the conversation, Marie arrives, asking them if the royals have already arrived. Moments later, the shop is filled with guests as Prince Frederick and Annabelle look around the shop. Emma asks Annabelle about her necklace, and we find out that it was a gift given by the prince on the couple's second date. Emma asks about how the royal couple met, and they share their story about the meeting because of chocolate. Emma and Luke listen intently and take notes, hoping the story gives them an idea of what to make for the competition. After the visit, Emma and Luke go back to the kitchen. Luke finally tells Emma about his actions the night before. He tells her that seeing Max reminded him of how far behind they are in preparing for the competition. He also subtly implies that Emma might want to be doing something else with her time in Bruges. Emma reassures him that she is helping him because she wants to. In the next scene, we see a line of chocolates being produced at Max's shop. He comes down to the production line to taste some of the new flavors made. One of his employees gives him a platter to taste. Max rejects all of the samples, and we see him taking out his frustration by being rude to his employee. Back in Luke's kitchen, Luke shares some stories about his parents with Emma. He tells her about how his father proposed to his mother. Later, they talk about Emma opening a cupcake shop in Bruges. She tells him that it's just a dream, but he responds by suggesting that Emma should take her own advice to not follow any recipe. Later that day, Marie and Emma are taking a walk. They talk about Emma and Luke's relationship. Emma insists that they are just friends, co-workers, nothing more. While walking, Emma and Marie find themselves in front of Liam's champagne shop. Emma urges her friend to go and talk to him, and Marie musters up the courage to do so. In the next scene, Marie is back at the inn. She receives a bouquet of flowers from Liam. We find out that he invited her to the royal ball. She and Emma head out shopping for dresses to wear at the ball. They head to a store and try out different dresses until they find the ones they like. The next day, Emma arrives at Luke's shop and sees him sketching something. He reveals that he finally settled on the design for their royal chocolate. They go to the kitchen and start working, but this time, Luke asks Emma to prepare some cake batter, which intrigues her. After some time, they finish making their cherry cola chocolate. Since Emma and Luke need an impartial judge to taste their creation, Marie brings some tourists to the store. The tourists like it, and Marie comments how it's the best chocolate she has ever tasted. Later, Emma and Luke celebrate. They almost kiss, if not for Marie showing up at an inopportune moment. Marie asks Luke and Emma to go outside and pose for a picture with the tourists. After that, Marie asks to take a picture of only Emma and Luke. The next day, Emma and Luke mass-produce their competition chocolate and prepare to head to the competition venue. Upon arriving at the royal palace, Emma is amazed by how pretty the place is. Luke hands over a box of chocolates to an official, registering his name for the competition. Then we see Emma head to a corner of the room to look at the exact spot where her grandparents met. Moments later, the competition begins, and we see Max submitting his entry for the royals to taste. Luke observes and expresses his worry because the prince seems impressed by his rival's chocolate. Emma puts him at ease by saying that their creation will win. Minutes later, Luke and Emma offer their creation to the prince and his fiancée. They call it the True Love Valentine's Day Petite Four. After tasting all the chocolates, the prince announces that he will reveal the winner the next night at St. Valentine's Gala. After the prince leaves, Luke heads out to go to Petra's place, so he can tell her the news and give her some of the chocolates. Emma wants to stay in the palace for a little longer, so he thanks her for everything and makes his exit. Outside the palace, we see Max approaching Emma and making small talk. He invites her to have coffee with him. Emma tries to reject his offer at first, but he is insistent, so she eventually agrees. Meanwhile, back in Petra's home, she tries Luke's chocolate and is impressed by the taste. Luke tells her that Emma made it possible for him to create such a masterpiece. Petra looks at him and hints that there might be something going on between Emma and Luke. Luke tries to play it cool and tells her that he and Emma are nothing more than business partners. Eventually, Luke indirectly admits that he has feelings for Emma, but won't pursue her, since she is leaving in a few days. Petra, though, believes that he should let Emma know how he feels before she leaves. In the next scene, we see Max and Emma walking together while having coffee. He asks her to be his date at the gala, but she rejects him, stating that she's going with Luke. Although she admits that Luke never asked her to go with him, she only assumed as much. Max tells her that Luke doesn't care about anything except his shop. During this conversation, Emma finds out that Luke's shop is in financial trouble, which Luke never told her. Luke arrives at the scene carrying a bouquet of flowers. He sees that Max and Emma are together and misunderstands the situation. He decides to toss aside the flowers and leave. That night, Emma returns to the inn, and Marie gives her a photo of herself and Luke, taken in front of the shop. The next day, we see Luke buying some fruits. Max appears and tells him that his competition entry was unconventional, something that he didn't expect Luke would do. Max tries to get into Luke's head by telling him that he hopes that he and Emma will have a more professional relationship in the future. Max leaves Luke feeling jealous and uncomfortable. When Emma goes back to Luke's shop, she finds Petra back at work. When Luke arrives, Emma comments on how he must be relieved that his assistant is back helping him. Luke tries to explain, but Emma stops him. She tells him that she understands that both of them already got what they want, so their business arrangement ends there. She wishes Luke good luck, with tears in her eyes, and leaves. Emma goes back to the inn and asks Marie if she can help her find a flight back to New York. Marie asks why she's leaving so soon. Emma reveals that she was wrong for thinking that she and Luke had a romantic connection. Marie tells Emma that she should attend the ball, regardless of what happened. After all, Emma is there to have an adventure, and she has to see it through. In the next scene, we see Luke preparing for the ball. Petra helps him with his bow tie. He reveals that Emma is not going with him, because he thinks she is going with Max. Petra points out that it's only the case because Luke never really told Emma how he felt. The next scene takes place at the royal palace, where the gala is being held. Luke approaches the table with all the chocolates on display. Max joins him and offers him a handshake as they wait for the results of the competition to be announced. Luke asks Max where his date is, and that's when he finds out that Max isn't there with Emma. Instead, he sees Emma enter the room alone, wearing a pretty red dress. Luke approaches Emma and asks her to dance. While dancing, Luke apologizes to Emma for misunderstanding the situation. She reveals that she declined Max's invitation because she wanted to be his date. Luke confesses to Emma that the past few weeks have been the best days of his life. She gave him a new perspective. Then he suddenly asks her to stay in Bruges with him. He offers to help her run a shop together, as true partners. He then says, "I love you," in German. Delighted, she gives him a kiss, professing that she loves him too. Moments later, the prince announces the winner of the competition. Luke and Emma celebrate after they hear the name of their chocolate. The couple goes on stage to accept the plaque, and they kiss each other. In the next scene, we see Emma and Luke running a new store. This time around, aside from chocolates, they are also selling cupcakes.